Speaking of disagreements, I'm sure this is going to spark a bit of a conversation about this, but Arsenal are on the edge of signing a new sporting director to take over the transfer element of the club, which I think most of us would probably agree is massively needed at Arsenal after a poor summer, an abysmal January that's now led to their season ending early from a Premier League perspective. But a question I want to throw out there, and I'm actually going to go to Will first on this. With the new sporting director, should Mikel Arteta be backed, or is it time now to sack and move on?
I think he should be sacked, but we know that he's not going to go anywhere. So I think he will be backed, logically speaking. But yeah, I think Arteta, he should be sacked at Arsenal. I think that aside from the FA Cup that he won in the first half of the second half of the season, but his first 6 months at the club, it's been a relative failure. I think he's done a good job in terms of building up the squad, right? Like, he made that defense what it is, right? The midfield solid. The attack is pretty mediocre, but he has gotten them to a place where they should be winning trophies and they should be doing a lot better to get over the line. And I think maybe you could look at Arteta as like that caretaker manager who just sorts things out. But then now you go and get somebody that's actually proven, somebody that actually has a track record. But yeah, I just think, look, if the old kind of like regime of like the board is kind of going out, I feel like the manager should as well, because it means that things aren't working out. But who knows? I think now with them bringing in a new sporting director, though, I kind of do think that Arsenal are going to make like a very big signing, because he's going to want to make a good first impression in the summer window. He's going to want to get the fans on side and things like that. But I just don't think that Arteta will ever be the manager to get Arsenal their next Premier League trophy. I just think that he's shown us that he can't get it done. And it seems like he needs perfect conditions to win something. And if that's the case, then he's never going to win anything, because nothing's ever going to be perfect. So, yeah, he should be sacked. He should never got the job. Like, Arsenal should never be your first full-time managerial role anyways. It's too big of a club. So I would sack him, but that's just me.
I'm pretty sure Zidane got his first full-time job at Real Madrid.
Yeah, but that's a little bit different.
So.
Yeah, no, okay, yeah, but that's a lot different, because he had like a Ronaldo, Bale, Sergio Ramos, like, so he had these players that, because if you ask any Real Madrid fan, Zidane was not a tactician like that. He didn't really have to do much. He's organizing them in the 11, but then he's kind of giving them the freedom. Whereas at Arsenal, you needed somebody to give a lot more. Arteta has given structure.
Didn't Zidane also have a job before? He was Real Madrid B team manager for 2 years as well.
Yeah.
So he obviously proved that he was going to be in the line for that job.
Yeah, so he managed the academy, and then he was the assistant.
No, but he followed this. That's what Pep did. Pep got the Barcelona B job, proved that he'd be the right man to step forward into the first team and sort of carry that on. That's what Zidane proved. Arteta walked in through the door at Arsenal without having any experience.
He was an assistant coach. And Arteta seeing
there's a lot of
being an assistant coach and watching Man City and seeing what they're doing,
because
that does help your development as a coach.
The pressure is completely removed as an assistant.
What pressure is there to be a B team coach where you can get sacked tomorrow, where you could leave tomorrow?
Well, if you fail at the B team, you're not going to get the first team job, are you?
I know, but if you don't get one second, there is different. One thing I want to acknowledge is I acknowledge that Arteta, this is his first big job, and it is crazy to give somebody their first big job at a big club. But things have changed, guys. Understand that there's a new era of management, new era of coaching, and this is kind of how things have been for the last couple of years. We've seen Xavi go into positions. We've seen other players go into positions without having major experience. Having experience as an assistant coach, having experience as a B team coach, whatever it is, this is a new generation of coaches. You're not going to have a lot of these coaches coming from Porto and coming from all these other teams and coming into your team in a big club. Now, Feyenoord to Liverpool is a big move for Arne Slot, and that's the most recent one where I've seen like that kind of success happen recently. But majority
interviewing Arne Slot,
majority of the moves, majority of the successful managers recently, if I'm not mistaken, are the new generation coming up. And now you're going to see different types of management.
What doesn't help Egal, though, is
look at Xavi.
Guys, listen, I'll be honest with you. It's great we're debating whether or not he should or shouldn't have got the job in the first place. But we're 5 years in, I feel it's a little bit of a futile conversation. The reason I say that is because the big debate amongst Arsenal fans, and I want to throw it out to you on the top 6 panel and the viewers of the Football Terrace, is they're going to get a new sporting director. I agree with Will. It looks like they're doing that, and then they're going to spend some money again this summer. Should that be with, and I've got a Tom on this before I get a gal's opinion, should that be with Mikel Arteta leading as the head coach, as the manager, or should they also look to bring somebody else new in? Should they back him or sack him? What's your opinion?
I mean, I think it should be with him as the head coach, because ultimately, if you bring in a sporting director, you're signing players for the club, not for the manager. So this would be your test to see whether he is the right guy for what you want to do. You give him a year. You know, he's got enough in the last couple of years to earn one more year under a new sporting director and going the Arsenal way. The big concern I had, and the big concern that I would have with the sporting director, just think it, whilst I don't know who it is, until he's announced, if Arteta's got a lot of power in regards to the transfers, then it could be a dangerous thing to keep him on board, because then you're not building an Arsenal team, you're building a Mikel Arteta team. And then when you get rid of him, it's harder to bring in a new manager to replace him, because they're not taking a squad which has a playing idea. They're taking a squad which is built around the manager's ideologies. So unless you bring in another manager with the same ideologies, which the reason you moved away from the manager was the ideologies, you're going to be stuck in a rut. So if the sporting director's coming in and he's signing players for Arsenal, who will be there before or after, they're not signing them based on Mikel Arteta's recommendations, I think he gets another year. But if the sporting director is going to be coming in and basically just being a glorified negotiator and buying whoever the manager wants, whatever demands the manager asks, you know, that side of the thing, then I think that's a flawed system, and it's probably best if Arteta moved on. But I think Arsenal are a smart football club that they've seen what is successful from other top clubs. I think this sporting director will be coming in to buy players for Arsenal for the long-term future of Arsenal. So Arteta's probably got one more year in him. If he doesn't win next year, I think that's it. I think you've used up all the rope you've got. I think it's time then to move on.
All right, just to give you guys a heads up, the 5 people is the guy at Monaco, the guy who just left Sociedad, the Atletico Madrid director who's about to leave. I don't know how to pronounce some of these guys' names.
I get you.
Dan Ashworth and the interim DOF currently, Jason Eto'o. Now, I don't want Jason Eto'o to get the job. I don't think he has the gravitas to get that job and make things happen. Next, when it comes to Dan Ashworth, I don't know what the situation was at Manchester United or how that situation ended up going to the way where it did, where he ended up getting fired or leaving. But I would prefer to go for somebody like the Atletico Madrid, the Atletico Madrid DOF, who's going to be leaving in December, January. Try to get who left in December, January. He's available. He's already won things with them, and he's been able to compete with the likes of Real Madrid and Barcelona in that league, where let's be honest, Atletico Madrid have less resources than those two clubs. So that might be a good shout. And then next after that, I would go for the guy from Sociedad. He's been able to bring through some quality players to Sociedad.
That's the doubt I'd have, though, because that seems like a very Arteta-driven appointment. You know,
regardless what happens, whoever comes in, I need it to be somebody who has the authority to tell the people in charge this needs to happen. Because I feel like Edu, him leaving, I can clearly see that he wanted some Brazilian players like Bruno Guimaraes. He never pushed through the signings, some of these signings. He did not have all the control, as much control as I thought he did. And right now, as much as you guys want to stick it on Arteta, I don't think he has as much control as we think he does either. Whoever comes in, what the main priority is, if you're going to bring in a director of football, let them direct the football. Don't cut their legs off and tell them you can't sign a player because he's 15 million over, 16 million too much. That's ridiculous. If you're going to set yourself back a couple of years, what's the whole point of even having these people in charge in the first place? Hire people, trust them, get them to get the job done, and let these lawyers and these bankers out the fucking club, because it's so annoying when we could have had Isaac, we could have had Bruno Guimaraes, we could have had all these other great players come to this club years ago, but we constantly let ourselves down because we don't want to spend 10 million, 15 million, 16 million more than what it costs to get that player. And these are facts. If you guys go back to athletic reports from a couple of years ago, how many of these guys did we just let them go because of that?
So, Gal, I think the point you make there is fair, because I'm on the side of I wouldn't sack him. I think Arteta overachieved heavily. Like Will, I think your example of Zidane had a way easier job. Like at the end of the day, the Arsenal team was nowhere near as good. I think when you're somebody like Zidane who commands respect or whatever, and you have that team, like
there's a lot more pressure at Madrid though than there is.
There is, but he's a World Cup winner. He's one of the best players we've ever seen.
Brought up
pressure for him doesn't really. You could somebody like that. Pressure doesn't really hit. There's certain people in the world that are just exceptional people, and Zidane's probably one of those people who like he walked into that job head high. I can just control the room. Everybody looks at him like you're fucking one of our goats. We love you. It's very different than Arteta having to completely rebuild an ethos, everything. He had to completely from bare bones build it up to nothing. So now I think the only reason I would not keep him is if it came out, and Nadal, you would know more than I would, if it came out that this whole not needing a striker, this whole like not going after like big players, if that came out where Arteta was like, no, I can do it without. No, I don't need this. If that comes out that was the case, then yeah, you get rid of him because then he doesn't know what he's doing. But if it comes out that he's like, I told y'all to get Isaac years ago, and you just keep giving me midfielders. If that comes out, which I don't know if it's true, then that's when you have to be like, okay, let's give this guy one more shot with the DUF. We can get something done. But I don't think he deserves more than like one more year. And I will say this again, I think he's overachieved. I do think you should have won some trophies, but because the way you guys decided to not care about the smaller cups, it hurts you.
Yeah.
You say it all the time, and I agree fully. You win more than that one FA Cup. Sorry, you win like another League Cup here, an FA Cup there. Everybody's completely chill on Arteta because he's showing he can win some things. But because that hasn't happened, now all the pressure is on winning a league, going up against some of the best managers we've ever seen, realistically, with a team that's pretty young and not ready for it. So I say give him another year with this.
But how can you say that he massively overachieved when he spent over 700 million?
Remember how bad they were?
Look at Chelsea. They spent double that.
Arsenal wasn't even the top.
Yeah, but but Chelsea have sacked their managers. That's the difference.
No, but Tottenham also spent a lot of money. Manchester United spend money.
They sacked their manager.
Will. But on your point, though, this is what I would say, and this is I'm not aiming this at you. I'm talking in general here.
Mm-hmm.
It's where I would say they have maybe massively overachieved is a stretch. The language is important, I suppose. But the year they got into the title race, the idea of that was laughed at. Then it was and it was interesting watching the overlap today, and they're talking about how, or stick to football, I think Arsenal were peaked. I don't think Arsenal can get any better. Fair opinion. But that was the same podcast who in 2002 said coming fifth is Arsenal's ceiling. Then they got into a title race that nobody expected. Then everybody said they wouldn't do it 2 years running, and they did. Now they've got into a title race 3 years running. Their failed investment in the summer and January has let them down, there's no doubt. So if 3 years running, people have said they've peaked and they're going to fall off, and they haven't, by that definition alone, they have overachieved the expectation of the general football fan. Well, they have to. If you say Man United are coming 8th and we come 2nd, that's an overachievement. By definition.
But I feel like the word overachievement, I feel like there's a different word than to use, because overachieving means that then he would have won despite everybody not believing that he would. I just can't see how
again. We can have a debate about semantics. Let's just say
expectations.
We can beat expectations or did better than expected. We can rephrase it. I'm not precious about the wording, but I do find it interesting that people saying that he's completely fouled are also people that predicted him to do a lot worse than he's done. But that seems to make those individuals more angry as opposed to more balanced, which you would expect it to do. And I feel like the whole conversation, and I'm going to get Gal's opinion in a minute, is I actually think if they could find a better manager this summer, and I don't know who the better manager is. There could be someone like a Slot that I'm not aware of who is better. I'll bow down to everybody's superior knowledge. If it turns out that they could go and get Zidane today, or they could get Pep, or they could get Klopp, or they could get Alonso, because I rate those managers, I'm talking subjectively, then I would probably look to move Arteta on and go for someone that's won those major trophies, got over that line. At the same time, I'm only going on my own knowledge here. Would I risk it with a manager that's not managed in the Prem before, not won any major trophies before? I probably wouldn't at this point. You've got to get that right. And there's the whole, can you attract them? Listen, Diego Simeone, if you could get Simeone, I would bring him in. But Can you get Diego Simeone? I might upset Arsenal fans when I say this. I don't think you've got the facilities for that. I don't think he would say yes to managing Arsenal. So those kind of conversations become a little bit mooted for me because you're not doing it. You're not bringing those people in.